What is up, fellow summoners? Welcome to the channel today. Thanks for stopping by. Going to discuss, and this might be hopefully not a lengthy, but it might be lengthy, I don't know. I like to blab on, so we'll see. But I want to discuss the arena system, which was all prompted by the Hyperion arena, which we just saw over the weekend. The cutoffs being a lot higher than I think what people thought they were going to be. People frustrated that they missed out, thinking they put up enough points. People concerned about the future of the game with the cutoffs getting increasingly higher and higher. People upset at the YouTube community, content creators, for our predictions being so high. So I want to take a few minutes and touch on all of those things, and then ultimately end on a positive note and try to give you what I think would be some helpful suggestions to change the arena system. Because ultimately I think there will need to be change, just like any good game. It's always changing. I think it's a very fluid situation, so if you want to keep expanding the game and the longevity of the game overall, you've got to make changes. So while I am discussing all this, I hope you don't mind if I do run a little bit of heroic mode here. It's just going to be running auto in the background, so you can, it's just on the screen, don't have to pay a lot of attention to it, but I figured I would kill two birds with one stone here. So first question is, does the MCOC content creators, the cutoff predictions that we give, does it negatively affect the cutoffs? Does it push people to go higher than they would otherwise? And the short answer to that, I believe, is no. Ultimately, when you sit down and look at what's going on, the content creators, you know, we don't have like a roundtable discussion every week and say, okay, like, you know, Voodoo's coming up. What do you guys think? What should our predictions be? Okay, I'm gonna say 6-1. You say 6-2. Okay, that doesn't take place. But what you notice is that the cutoff predictions that we all give are all very similar to one another, and that is because we're all looking at the exact same information. And we look at the arena system, the cutoffs that have taken place. We look at the history, and we try to find champs that are comparable, that are running right now to numbers we have already seen. So in Hyperion's case, you know, we were very fortunate because we had Voodoo that just ran. So we saw that the Voodoo cutoff was like 5-8, I think, or 5-9, something like that, the first round. So Hyperion, as far as his usefulness and people wanting to get him, was right up there with Voodoo. So I said, okay, he was 5-8, 5-9. I would expect the cutoff to be right around there as well. I'll add a few more 100,000 points on there just to be on the safe side. We'll call it 6-1, 6-2 and be good. And that's what everybody does. The problem, if you want to call it that, is that then people take that information, they get to that number, and they say, okay, I've just put in so much time, so many units, so much effort. I want to make sure that there's no way I'm going to miss him. And so they get to 6.2, and they do a full another round and push themselves to 6-4 or 6-5 just to be on the safe side. And that's why you see the cutoffs that are going up that high. Now, if you just cut the YouTube community, the content creators out of the equation, okay, we're no longer giving cutoff predictions, I don't think it would change anything. Because people are then going to go to the forums, they're going to go to Reddit, they're going to start discussions, they're going to pull up the stats and the sheets for themselves, and they're going to see the exact same numbers that we are already looking at. And they're going to draw the exact same conclusion on their own. So whether they come to my channel and they ask me my prediction and I give it, even though I don't have a crystal ball, you know, I give it based upon the facts that I see. If I'm not here, or Dave's not here, or Brian's not here, or Seaton, whoever it might be, they're going to go and grab that exact same information and come to the exact same conclusion. So I don't think that just blaming it on the MCOC content creators is really a viable theory. I don't really think that it makes any difference. The people are going to get there one way or the other. If nothing else, I think it actually helps to corral the numbers a little bit. Kind of there's an understanding across the community when all the content creators are kind of agreeing on a round number-ish within a couple 100,000 points. Everybody pretty much expects it to be there. And ultimately, I think as a community, content creators, I think we actually all do a pretty good job. I would say all of our numbers are never exactly right, but we're all very, very close. And people in the community know that. So they see those numbers, which they don't have to take the time and the effort to go find the history. They can just ask one of us. They get to that number and they push a little bit further if they want to. So that was a long way of just saying no. I don't think the content creators affect the scores negatively, like I have seen some people suggest. The other aspect is, yes, the cutoffs are growing higher. And that is just a part of the game. Like, you're never going to be able to get away from that. The cutoff started to grow higher from the minute the game went into motion, because people who are playing the game, who are grinding the game, their rosters are constantly expanding. They're constantly ranking up characters. So when they could do 2 million points in 100 rounds, you know, a month and a half later, now they're doing 2.3 million points or 2.4 million points. And over time, over years, over months, whatever it might be, those numbers, they just continue to creep up and continue to expand further and further and further. And I don't necessarily think that, you know, the whole competitive aspect, I don't think is a bad thing. You know, as people expand their rosters, it is a competition. You want to try to push yourself. You want to try to do better and better, and that it's very satisfying when you put in the effort and you get the champ, and it's equally as disappointing when you don't get it. But I think it needs that competitive balance back and forth to keep the game intriguing. The problem is, and where I think the change needs to take place, excuse me, telemarketers, where the change needs to take place is in the fact that, you know, rosters and cutoffs, you know, they are kind of growing at an even pace, okay? But what happens is then, while your cutoffs and your rosters are up here, you've got a new player base that's coming in down here. And this, you can't even see it now, but that gap becomes further and further and further as the game progresses, to the point where people who are now coming into the game are turned off because they don't see any way that they'll ever be able to grind, you know, 6.5, 7 million, 8 million, whatever the cutoffs are going to continue to grow to be, in any reasonable amount of time. So there has to be a little bit of check and balance to keep the game competitive at the high end, but to keep the game, excuse me, intriguing and interesting, and give some hope to the new player base that's coming in, because that ultimately is what keeps the game alive and moving forward, is the continual growth of the game. So having said all that, what would I propose as a solution? Well, I've got a couple of different ideas. I was trying to come up with a way to incorporate some sort of a milestone, but I didn't just want to make it outright a milestone, and I didn't want to just outright expand, you know, the 10% to 15% or 20% or whatever you might want it to be. I think that there, hidden in there, is actually a combination of the two that I think would work really, really well, to keep new players intrigued, keep them able to grab new champs, and keep the game progressing forward. So what I'm proposing is keep the basic champ at the 1 to 10%, but it is that next tier, which I think is 11 to 20%. It's either 11 to 20 or 11 to 25. I can't remember, but that second set of rewards will now include an arena token, is what I'm going to call it. You can come up with a better name than that, I'm sure. But every time you fall within that 11 to 20%, whatever that second tier is, you're going to gain one of these arena tokens. So you can gain up to 2 per week. And then what you will do with these is you'll be able to go in and unlock a special arena that only runs for, I would say it should run for 6 weeks. You can have 3 of them. So the first one that would run in, let's just say it's Voodoo. It's always following the basic champ that was just in the arena. So we just had Voodoo, so Voodoo would be in that arena for 2 weeks. He would drop down. Another champ would come in, Hyperion, for 2 weeks. That would drop down. Then the next champ, whoever that is, would come in. And then the next one after that, Voodoo would drop off, and so on and so forth. So you'd have a total of 6 weeks for each of those basic champs to be in there in total. And it would take, let's say, I don't know, 5 arena tokens or 6 arena tokens to be able to unlock this arena. You want to keep it at a high enough number that it really does take some time to be able to unlock it. And you also are going to have to make like a hard decision, you know, who should I open up Voodoo, or should I, excuse me, I just had somebody sub. Should I open up Voodoo, or should I open up Hyperion, or who should it be? Like, there should still be a little bit of strategy to it all. So you use your tokens, you unlock the arena. It is not a me versus you kind of thing. It is not a percentage based, you know, the top 10% gets it. Whenever you unlock it, whenever you want to start that grind, you have, what is it, 3 days, the normal arena time, to be able to get to a certain number. Now, I don't exactly know what that number should be. If I say that it's the first round cutoff, then that's going to be too high for a lot of new players to compete at. But if I say it's the second round cutoff, typically those numbers come down a little bit. Like, for instance, the Hyperion Arena at 6.4 the first round, I wouldn't be surprised if it was down in the low 5s the next round. but I don't know. I hadn't figured this part out, but it should be a lesser number than the first round cutoff that we saw. Something that is still very achievable for a younger player to be able to push up into. So I don't know if you want to take the second round minus 10% or the second round minus 20%, whatever you want it to be, and say, okay, it's a milestone. Once you get to this number, you've got this amount of time to do it, you get the champ. Because the 11 to 20% to get the arena token, I mean, you're talking just over milestones most of the time, somewhere between like 1.8 and 2 million points. So for newer players, it's still going to be a little bit of a grind to be able to get to that, but something very achievable. You'll still be able to get all the milestones. You'll still get rewards for the shards and the 5 and the 4-star. You'll grab this arena token. Then once you've done that for a couple of weeks, hopefully you've been able to grab maybe a basic champ here and there, and now you've got yourself some tokens, and you can really go after one of the really good champs who was just in the basic arena. So is it a perfect solution? No, I'm sure you can probably poke holes in it all over the place. But I think that we get stuck sometimes just trying to come up with ideas based upon the information that we've always had in the past. So we've always had, we've always had one arena. You know, why would we have a basic arena? But then that was added. Well, we've always had a featured arena and a basic arena. You know, let's just up the pool. Well, there's other solutions outside of just having 2 arenas. So I think kind of expanding the game and adding other aspects for arenas to be able to, or for players to be able to grind arenas in and of themselves, I think is a positive thing. So definitely let me know your feedback, suggestions that you think might make that better. If you have like a totally different idea, I'm totally down to hear that as well. But I think this is a fairly good solution between not necessarily opening up the pool, but opening up the pool in a sense. And making those cutoffs come down for players who could not achieve, you know, 7 million points or whatever it might be. So definitely let me know your thoughts down below. I will probably tweet this at Marvel. You know, if you like the idea, you know, maybe go on there and retweet it at Marvel, and maybe we'll be able to get a discussion going for ideas between not only the content creators and Kabam, not Marvel, but Kabam. Not necessarily just communication between the content creators and Kabam, but the community as a whole and Kabam on things that we'd like to see change. So, all right, guys, until I see you all in the next video, take care. Have a great day.